Okay. Earlier on this week, I got a chance to speak to Mark Ein, who's the chairman of the Mubadala Citi DC Open. Again, I know it sounds crazy that I'm already talking about this tournament because we still have Wimbledon to get through, but I'm super excited for the US summer swing. It is almost here. I can't wait to have the tour back in the States and I can go to tennis tournaments and see players play live again, which is my favorite part. I always encourage people go see tennis live. It is the best way to understand the game. And I got to talk to Mark a little bit about the tournament, how it started, and the players that play it, and why you should put it on your list this summer. I am joined by Mark Ein, the chairman of the Mubadala Citi DC Open. Hello. Hi.
Hey, it's great to be with you today.
Thank you for joining us for this sort of short interview. Wanted to talk to you about the Mubadala Citi Open. It's coming up soon. I'm really excited for it. But before we jump into everything, I always like to start from the beginning. What is your tennis origin story,
Huh.
and how did it lead you to the Citi Open?
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks. It's great to be with you. And my story is interesting. So I grew up probably 10 minutes from the site of our tournament. Our tournament has an
Oh,
amazing, the tournament itself has an amazing origin story. It was started in 1969 by a couple men in Washington, including Donald Dell, who's one of the legendary figures in the sport, Davis Cup captain, but also one of the original tennis agents. And one of his clients was Arthur Ashe. And Arthur was from Richmond. So he's kind of from the mid Atlantic. And he said, I want to bring pro tennis to Washington. Will you be part of it? And Arthur said, I will, as long as you put it in a public park. Because in 1969, every tournament was played in a private club. Even people forget the US Open was at the West Side Tennis Club, which was very much a private club. And so Arthur's vision was like, I'll get behind this, but you need to put it in a park. You need to put it in a public facility. And so they put it in the middle of Rock Creek Park, which is the big public park that runs through Washington, D.C. And they put it in its current location. And so today we are the longest standing tournament in its original location in the United States. And one of
wow.
the really historic events. And I always bring up that story because I feel like the culture of the event really emanates from that. It is a tournament that is about the community. It's about accessibility. It is about bringing tennis to the people and people to the tennis. And then my story is I grew up 10 minutes from there, very close to there. In fact, my house was very close to Rock Creek Park, but Rock Creek Park is big. And I was a ball kid at the tournament when I was a little boy. And so my parents had played tennis and I played. I actually learned how to play in Rock Creek Park with my parents. But then the highlight of every summer for me was being a ball kid at this tournament. It was on clay. It was a lot smaller. Arthur actually played in it, but I just was obsessed with the sport because I love to play it. But then when I got close to the players, because I was ball kidding for them, I really got obsessed with the sport and started a lifelong passion and connection, investment in the sport that continues to today.
That is so fabulous because you actually just answered, well, partly one of my questions, because I was going to ask, here's this tennis tournament in a park, in Rock Creek Park, but it's also in a sort of a metropolitan city in DC. How do you, like, what do you've said a little bit of why it is special, that setting, but just expand on that a little bit. How having this tournament in a park, very accessible, in an urban city that you can easily get to,
Yeah.
what makes that special?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it is, and it's interesting. There's a lot of discussion about our location and the site and everything these days. And I'm really committed to figuring out how we stay in this location to the extent humanly possible for the long term, because I do think it's one of the things that makes this tournament so special is it is in the middle of the city. It's literally it's in a residential neighborhood. It's close to a lot of other residential neighborhoods, but it's in a park. And I think it's literally it's physical accessibility, the convenience of being there is part of what makes it so popular and successful. It's not like you've got to go drive 45 minutes to go to it. Like you can get there by car, you can get there by metro bus, you can go to the subway, and we have a shuttle. And we even, one of the things when we took over is like we get a lot of people who bike there. We got a lot of people who walk there. And so to me, my passion for this, people always ask, what's your highlight of being the owner of the tournament every year? And I barely watch, I love tennis, but I barely watch any tennis. I love looking around and seeing parents and their kids, friends, colleagues, all coming together around the sport of tennis, having these memories like I did as a kid, because I was a ball kid, but also I would go with my parents. And it had such an impact on my life. And so to me, it's the impact of this, having this pro event to build fanship, to build. And the thing it also does is it inspires young kids to love the sport. Now, virtually all of them are not going to be pro players, but it's like when you're there, it inspires you and it gives you something to aspire to be. And so interestingly, we have a bunch of kids in DC who went to the tournament as young kids or literally went to these courts when the tournament went there, who are now competing. Haley Baptiste's grandmother lived a 5-minute walk from the courts, and she had the biggest win of her career, beating Madison Keys in 2019 on the court she played as a kid. Clervy Nagoye, who won Junior Wimbledon in 23 and was number one in the World Juniors, grew up in the neighborhood. Francis Tiafoe obviously grew up in DC and people know his story, but this was the tournament he went to as a kid. It's where he got his first wild card. It's always been his home tournament, and on and on and on. And so none of that happens if you're not accessible and in the middle of the people. And to me, that's what makes it so special.
I love that. I love that. Because that's kind of what we try and do on Ground Pass is show that tennis can be accessible to different people, no matter what your background is or where you're from. Like, it's such an open sport. And then to have a tournament that basically exemplifies that is kind of perfect. But, getting back to my questions, you've talked about it, but for someone who maybe has never been to the Mubadala Citi DC Open, how would you describe the vibe of the tournament? Like, what is your one sentence sell, kind of?
I mean, so my one sentence sell is we are a tennis tournament in the middle of a food and wine festival. So now that can sound a little bit more erudite and fancy. It's not a fancy food and wine festival. There is everything from the high end, but one of the things so from being a ball kid, then I was involved in this tournament forever. And by the way, when I was too big to be a ball kid, I did transportation. Then I was on the board of the not-for-profit. So I've been around and then when I didn't have any official engagement, I was a box holder and I would go. And it is a really important tournament. It was for a long time the only 500 in the United States. Now Dallas is too. But it's the 5th biggest tournament in the United States. It's the lead into the US Open series swing. And it was always an important tennis tournament. I frankly did not think the experience for anyone was good. I didn't think it was good for fans, for players, for media, for sponsors. And I saw it firsthand. And it was my dream to take this over. I had built the World Team Tennis franchise in DC, which was great. And we had so many amazing moments, and I cherish those. But, an ATP 500 is such a higher level than what World Team Tennis generally is, but we were really competitive with them because we made it such an incredible experience that people would gravitate to that. And I thought, man, if we could take the experience we've created for fans and players there and bring it here, we'll do something transformative. So fortunately, in 2019, we found a way to basically take control of it, which was great. And what we set out to do is to totally revolutionize the experience for all stakeholders, but start with the fans. The food that they used to serve was literally the food from the park service. That was the concessionaire. And then there was a VIP tent for VIPs, and there was nowhere else indoors or air conditioned for fans to go. So It's no secret that Washington, in the middle of summer, is hot and it rains. And it would rain, and people would be like standing in the hallways of the stadium trying to be dry. And so the vision was transform that experience. So we started by building this amazing indoor kind of air-conditioned food hall with the best of Washington, a bar in the middle, big TV screens overlooking the practice courts, but the best burger in Washington, the best pizza, the best ice cream, the best lobster roll in Washington. So you could come do that. And it was a place to come whenever you wanted to eat, but also if it ever rained or was hot, you could go inside. And then we just kept growing that. And we created a taco tequila bar. We have a wine bar overlooking. And so, but there's something for everyone. There's great hot dogs. It's literally everything. And so what happened is people just now come for the experience. So when we started the event, less than 20% of the tickets were sold for people who bought the whole tournament. And everyone waited to see what players were going to come. Now over 70% of the tournament is sold to people who buy the whole tournament before we ever announce a player. And so what that tells me is people are coming for the experience more than anything else. And that's actually where tennis is at its best. I was at the French Open a few weeks ago. And I'm like, look, the sport, Coco's amazing and Carlos amazing, Novak. But there's days now, first of all, you don't have Roger, Rafa, Novak, Serena anymore. Mm-hmm. But you also have days where there's no stars, but the place is still packed because people want to come, be close to tennis, eat good food, buy cool merchandise, and they just want to love sport tennis. If you want to grow the sport of tennis, that's what we're good at, is creating something where it's not 1-2 hour match. You can come for 6 hours. You can come every day and have different food, different drinks, be close, see cool stuff. And I'm really proud of the transformation that we've been able to create that's delivered that experience for people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I don't really want to have you pick out of your favorite children, but what's your favorite food on site?
I can't really. It's not that I don't have one. It's literally just everything. We've gone great lengths. This year we have 7 Michelin star chefs. So at the high end, it's really the best at DC. But again, we have the best burger in DC. We have Jose Andre serving amazing Spanish tapas food. We have pizza. We have hot dogs. We have shaved ice. It literally runs the gamut. And here's the thing I'd say, because I'm there pretty much all day, every day for 9 days, I never get tired of the food because there's always something different. Whatever I'm in the mood for, we have. And I think that's what fans appreciate too, and why they love to come. So if you're a hardcore fan, of course you've always come to this tournament, but I think the growth in the event has really come from the less hardcore fans, which I know is your passion. And what Ground Pass is about is how do we bring non-traditional hardcore tennis fans to the sport? And I think coming to an event like ours is a perfect on-ramp to the sport.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have to talk about the tennis, obviously, because it's a tennis tournament and a tennis podcast.
I agree. I love that too.
But, and I don't think a lot of people remember this, but some might remember that Coco Gauff's U.S. win that summer started in DC.
Absolutely.
How important do you think this tournament is to a player's calendar during the U.S. Open series? And what kind of insights, especially for a new fan who might just be getting into the sport, what sort of insights can they get by watching these players in person so early on?
Yeah, so I'm really proud of the number of players that their year, even their career has changed as a result of what happened in DC. Obviously, Coco's one great example. And what people often don't remember is her first WTA event actually was in DC in 2019. She had a great Wimbledon. I think she beat Venus.
Yeah.
But her ranking wasn't high enough to even get in her qualifying until literally the last minute someone dropped out. She got the last spot. She won a match, which was so great over qualifying weekend. And she actually lost in the second round of qualifying, but she played doubles with Katie McNally, and they won the tournament in 2019. So her first actual WTA title was DC doubles in 2019. And then obviously 23 was amazing. She'd come back from Wimbledon. It was her first tournament with Brad Gilbert. We had hired Brad for the first time to be one of the hosts. And then he said, well, I'm going to be there. I'm going to do everything for you, but I've also worked with Coco. We said, great. and she had an amazing run. It was an incredible final, her against Maria Sakkari, which was on Breakpoint on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And I just, we've had this relationship with Coco. She played in 19. She came in 22. We didn't have the tournament in 21. She came in 23. And with her and her family, when she came in 19, we introduced her to Michelle Obama. And I just think the city and her have this great relationship. And I saw her family recently, and they really do think that the confidence she got from winning her first 500 in DC right before the US Open was a springboard. But like Paula Badosa last year needed a wild card to get in. I don't know, when we gave it to her, she was like 70 in the world. She won DC. She's now back to the top 10. And she tells me all the time that was an inflection point for her. Daniil Medvedev, who's coming this year in 2019, made our finals, lost to Kyrgios. No one even knew who Daniil Medvedev was in 2019. He ended up making it to the finals of the US Open and playing Rafa that year. And so this pattern kind of repeats itself with players who come to DC, they find good form, they get confidence in the summer swing, and then invariably it ends with like a really great US Open. And I just love that we've been able to provide that kind of platform for a lot of players.
Yeah. It really is kind of just watching it year after year after year. It just keeps happening. So definitely something for fans to look out for. You do well in DC, look towards New York. But you have a lot of upcoming players as well that play the field. But this year, I was looking at the list. They just kept coming out of who is playing. And I was like, who? Naomi Osaka is committed. Emma Raducanu, Daniil Medvedev, like you just said, Jessica Pegula, Taylor Fritz, Madison Keys, the Australian Open champion, Tommy Paul, Paula Badosa's coming back. I mean, the list, I could keep going. But it's kind of incredible, the list of players that are coming to the Mubadala Citi DC Open this year. How'd you do it? How do you do it?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So when we took over, as I said, we thought the experience for a lot of stakeholders was not good. Fans at the top, but also for players, it was not good. The food wasn't that great. The hotel wasn't great. Transportation. And I thought at the core, if you get a lot of good players and they love being there, you will have a successful fans will be able to tell the difference for players who love being there and ones who are there just to play a match and get out of town. And so we really put a lot into it. Our food is unbelievable. Like the same food you serve around the grounds. In fact, we have player food, but then we actually let them order from anywhere around the ground. So whatever they want. We have an incredible hotel that we actually spend real money on, as opposed to a place where someone just does a sponsorship, but it's not great. Transportation, I think we have an amazing tournament director, Danny Velvedue, who has a real relationship with players. But then we bring in Brad Gilbert, Jeannie Bouchard, Renee Stubbs, who have their own relationships. I think people are like, this is fun. I like it. And we really work hard to create a great experience. And so the other piece of it is that this tournament, before we got involved in what 500s around the world do, is they put all their focus and their investment behind one or two or three big players, and then everyone else is just tough. As you can see by the depth of our field, I've always thought, let's spread it amongst a lot of people, so a lot of people feel the love. But then also, the tournament is good from the first day until the last day. What happens is if you have one or two stars, they generally won't start until Wednesday. So the first couple days aren't that great. If they lose, it's not that great. For our tournament, I mean, we have had on opening weekend, it'll be the case again, that you'll have Kyrgios, Raducanu, Osaka. You'll have the best players in the world from the very first day. And there's so many of them that you can pretty much count on any time you come, you're going to have great players. And so we love the model. We love the relationships we have with the players. The last thing I'd say is a lot of players, I'd say especially the Europeans, love DC. They come and they really love the city. And then the Americans love being in an American tournament. So the Americans love it. And then the Europeans come and they're just like, wow, DC feels like home. And so the combination is just like, an incredible field.
Yeah, yeah. Are they, I mean, I know you're going to be busy throughout the tournament doing so much, but are there any specific sort of storylines or anything player wise that you're going to be like, you know what? I have to watch that match. I have to be there.
Well, we'll see. Look, we'll see what the matchups are when they come. Obviously, Nick signed up. Nick's won our tournament twice. He won last time he played. He won the singles and the doubles Jack Sox. So, it's funny. Nick is from Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. And I always joke with Nick, and I did it when he won it the second time, that, Washington is the Canberra of America because we're both the capital city. And I think he just feels at home here. So, I'd love it if Nick came back. He's electric and he hasn't really played in America in quite a while. So that would be great. We have a couple other potential surprise players to add that I think people will be really interested in. And then just invariably, when you see the matchups, you will find, Francis played Daniil in 19. I was looking at when we announced Osaka, I think Naomi played Iga in 2019, or Ons played Iga. You'll get, and it was on our fourth court. So you're invariably going to see incredible matches on all the courts all week. And it's one of the things I love. Again, just with such a deep field, you're going to have a lot of those memorable matches.
Okay. So, last couple of questions here for you, but we are launching Ground Pass's tournament guide the same day that this interview drops, actually. And the Mubadala Citi DC Open is the first tournament that we're going to cover. Do you have any, because this is what we love to do. We like to give the little tips, the tricks, the secrets. What corner of what court do you need to sit on? But do you have any sort of tips, pro tips for a first time attender to the tournament?
Yeah. So one of the things we work really hard at is accessibility. You can get really close to the players. So our second and third court, which are general admission, there's no assigned seats. And our second court, if you get there for a good match, you can literally be in the front row for, again, in 2019, Francis played Medvedev there. Last year, the semis, because of weather, Ben Shelton was playing the semis of our tournament there. And our third court, when you get in the tournament, sometimes I look at who's on our third court, and it is the best players in the world. And I love the vibe. Our third court's 1,300 capacity, and it is bleachers, and you are on top of the court. The players are there. We have amazing singles matches, but we'll also have amazing doubles matches there. And we really push our players, and a lot of them want to play doubles this week because they're starting their hard court swing. You'll see some unbelievably unforgettable things. As close, you can't believe how close you are. You hear them talking to each other in their boxes. So the tennis, and then the practice courts are amazing. You can literally put your face up to the chain link fence. And a few years ago, Venus was here and Serena was here practicing, and there's kids, that close. And we really make that accessible. So I just think, really embrace the accessibility, how close you can get. Don't necessarily just go to the big match on the big court, because a lot of times, because of scheduling too, because we're the only combined 500 in the world, and you may have a men's spot that we have to put in the stadium, but there's an incredible women's match and we have to put that on one of the other courts, or vice versa. And then I would just say, really, first of all, don't try to do it in one day, because you'll never eat all the good food and have all the good drinks if you come once. So make a week of it. Washington in July is incredible. You can see our beautiful city, but you can come see great tennis, but also getting the best food and drink experience at a sporting event you'll ever have. And I'd say, make sure you're here enough days to try a little bit of everything.
Okay. That's where I think I'm going to end it, because that was just perfect. That was a perfect ending to this great conversation. Mark, I just want to say thank you. I am more excited than ever this year to show up in DC and come to your tournament. And this group of players, I think it's going to be an exciting one for sure.
And next week we're going to announce, I know these are just the players that we did deals with. There's already another 10 players that will be incredible that you'll see starting next Tuesday. So more.
That is exciting.
And I enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to seeing you in DC.
So that was a great interview, Nick. I really loved talking to Mark. It's really cool that someone who has such a deep history with the tournament. Like, he was a ball boy at the tournament, and now he's the chairman leading the way and guiding the tournament on. So that was a really super cool interview. Really excited for people to, I always remember, because I was at the match, watching Coco Gauff win the Mubadala Citi DC Open and then going on her run in 2023 to then win the US Open. It all started at that tournament. And it's really interesting that that is a theme that that tournament has. So when fans go to a tournament like that, it's like you see someone do super well, you can almost guarantee that they're going to do well in the rest of the summer swing. And this year, the field is stacked, Nick. I have not in recent times seen a list of players like this for the Citi Open.
Not for the Citi Open. Obviously, probably not super surprising for those of us WTA fans who are used to so many good players getting into 500s. But clearly it's seen as a really, really important warm-up for the US Open by the men as well. And it's not super surprising, but it has been a bit on and off. So you've got all your big American names going. Taylor Fritz, Tommy Paul, Francis Tiafoe. But you've also got Lorenzo Musetti is going, Alex de Minaur is going, Daniel Medvedev is going, former US Open champion, of course, so that's a big name you want to go see. Former Grand Slam finalists Kei Nishikori and Nick Kyrgios have entered. That's, of course, if Kyrgios is fit. You've got Andrei Rublev as well, like the kind of ATP king of fights in so many ways. And, let's see how he does and what he can do with that. In the women's side, again, your big American names are there. Coco's not there. Not unless she takes a last-minute wild card or something. But currently planning to play is Pegula, Keys, Navarro, defending champion Paula Badosa's coming back, and obviously she went on that tournament last year where she won, really kick-started her pushing up the rankings again. And then you've got former US Open champions Emma Raducanu and Naomi Osaka playing. So yeah, you're right. That field is crazy good. And I guess if you're looking for something a little bit more affordable than the US Open and live on the East Coast, that might be your best option.
I mean, it literally is your option. And the thing I love about it, where, US Open is a massive tournament. It's massive. There is an intimacy to the DC Citi Open that it's just so small and intimate and family orientated, and you can walk from courts really quickly. They have like their big center court and then two other smaller courts where you're getting like court side view on those outside courts to some big names. Because, for example, they're probably not going to be able to put all of these players on the main court like every single day. Some of these players are going to play on the smaller outside courts, and then you're watching courtside to one of these names that we've talked about. So I definitely think it's worth it. I will be there. So if you want to come say hi, I will definitely be there and that's the thing, being on the East Coast. I know Nick always makes fun of me for driving so much, but it's not a bad drive from New York to DC. So I'm going to be driving up to watch some tennis like I always do.
How far is the drive? Is that 2 hours?
It's about 2 or 3 hours, like 2.5, 3 hours, I'll say.
That's not bad for an American trip.
It's not bad.
I'll say that. Like, that for me is like, I'm only driving that distance if I'm staying overnight. But different scales of these things. But yes, I will kind of go, I can see where you're coming from with that. Also, just want to add to your point about seeing players on the outside courts, just thinking about the voicemail we got from Kafiti Cat about Queens last week, like Queens also being a 500 and probably very similar kind of size and status to Citi Open. Maybe imagine if the Citi Open, didn't have Cincinnati after it or whatever. Like, you're also probably going to be seeing like top players playing doubles, and they're going to be on the outside courts. So that's also a really good opportunity to go see them as well. So like, even if you like, I'm never going to go and see Pegula or Fritz play. If they decide to play doubles, you're going to see them on a smaller court. So, and you're going to be pretty close. So definitely go check that out. Check the double schedule.